Welcome, facilitators and students. Wow, we've finally made it. Today, we're diving into the ultimate roadmap for the culmination of the entire Finlet Zambia curriculum. This is the Phase 4 Capstone, Life Scenario Financial Planner. I am literally so excited to walk you through this today, because this is the exact moment where all the theory, all those worksheets, and all the discussions from the last 12 weeks finally come together into one comprehensive strategy.
So, let me kick things off with a quick question. How exactly do you plan for the future when, well, the present is completely unpredictable? It's a massive challenge, right? Especially in the dynamic Zambian economy, where shifting inflation rates, sudden life events, and unexpected expenses can just shake up even the absolute best intentions. This capstone project is fundamentally about answering that exact question.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover the Phase 4 Capstone, meet your persona, designing the 5-year plan, surviving the stress test, and finally, the presentation and graduation.
All right, Section 1, the Phase 4 Capstone, synthesizing 12 weeks of financial education. So, this phase is basically the big finale. It brings together absolutely every single module we've covered, from PAYE all the way to compound interest. As you can see in the official guidelines right here, teams are tasked with producing a comprehensive 6 to 10-page written financial plan. It's a totally immersive graduation project, a fully personalized, integrated life strategy that teams will build over 2 prep sessions before the final presentation. Moving right along to Section 2, Meet Your Persona. Anchoring the math in Zambian reality. To make all this math actually matter, students aren't just filling out spreadsheets. They're designing a 5-year life plan for a highly realistic Zambian profile. It could be a farmer in Eastern Province, or, in this specific case, Mwansa Banda, a 28-year-old nurse over in Dola. Now, she brings in a gross income of 9,500 kwacha a month, but she's carrying some seriously heavy high-interest debt. We're talking a 12,000 kwacha personal loan at a staggering 42% interest rate, plus an extra 800 kwacha mobile loan. This is the exact, very real puzzle your teams have to solve to secure her family's future. Which brings us to Section 3, designing the 5-year plan, from budgeting to retirement. Okay, so students have some major deliverables to hit here. First up, they need to project an annual budget starting with month 1, calculating net pay after NAPSA and PAE, and actually applying either the 50-30-20 rule or the envelope method. Next, they'll do an insurance audit, looking at NHMI and deciding on life or property insurance. After that, it's time for an investment strategy, maybe using loose stocks or government bonds. And finally, a home ownership pathway. Now, obviously, a huge chunk of this plan is debt elimination. Teams are going to have to choose between 2 evidence-backed strategies. There's the avalanche method, which mathematically minimizes total interest by attacking the highest rate first. Or there's the snowball method, which builds psychological momentum by clearing those smallest balances right out of the gate. Given Wanza's brutal 42% interest loan, teams really have to present and fiercely defend exactly which method is going to get her out of the red. So how does all this build into long-term planning? Well, teams have to project Mwansa's retirement timeline using the 3 pillars of retirement income. Pillar 1 is NAPSA, the mandatory state pension. That's her base. Pillar 2 covers any occupational pension schemes her employer might happen to offer. And Pillar 3, that's her personal savings and investments, basically her private wealth. Students really need to understand and be able to articulate that NAPSA is just a safety net. It's an essential base, sure, but it is absolutely not a complete replacement for her income. To put that into perspective, look at this number, 1,708 kwacha. Based on 2025 national average earnings data, that is the estimated minimum monthly NAPSA pension target for a retiree today. When you factor in decades of inflation before a 28-year-old like Mansa finally retires, I mean, wow. It really emphasizes the absolute necessity of building up that 3rd pillar, personal wealth, just to ensure a comfortable retirement. All right, let's jump into Section 4, surviving the stress test, expecting the unexpected. Look, a financial plan drawn up in a vacuum is practically useless, right? It's only as good as its ability to survive real economic shocks. So you have to ask your teams, what happens to this beautiful plan if inflation suddenly hits 25%? Or what if your persona loses their job for 6 whole months and their spouse has to cover literally everything? It's a provocative question, for sure, but it shows exactly why rigorous stress testing is a non-negotiable part of this. So here are the exact steps your students need to take to manually adjust their persona's budget during this stress test phase. Step 1, model the shock. They actually have to inject that 25% inflation or sudden income loss straight into their numbers. Step 2, deploy the emergency fund. Did they build that 3 to 6 month buffer like they were supposed to? Because now is exactly when it gets used. And step 3, adjust budget allocations just to survive. They'll have to figure out what wants get cut to prioritize the real needs. Walking through these steps demonstrates firsthand how a resilient plan absorbs sudden economic trauma without totally collapsing.
And finally, Section 5, Presentation and Graduation, the finish line. This is it, the ultimate stage of the capstone. Students have to stand up and defend their tough choices in front of a peer advisory panel. Teams will deliver a 6 to 8 minute final presentation pitching their 5-year plan. And the audience gets to play the bad guy, asking tough questions like, why government bonds instead of loose equities, or what if Mwanza needs emergency health care? This really ensures students truly understand their own recommendations before they ever receive those FinLit completion certificates. I want to wrap up today's explainer with this really powerful philosophy. Knowing the right thing and doing the right thing are different skills. A plan bridges the gap. Facilitators, you are doing so much more than just teaching math here. You're helping these students build the actual bridge to actionable financial empowerment. When the unpredictable inevitably happens, will your students merely react or will they be ready? Thank you so much for joining me today, and I wish you absolutely all the best with those capstone presentations.